Hello, uh, my name's Jack, and this is sort of a run through of how I edited this particular picture that you're seeing up on screen. A lot of people have asked me for this because this picture is really catching on. Luckily, I have the screen recording of it, so I'm going to sort of walk you through what I did. Now, this isn't live, I'm not editing this as we go, but I'm sort of commenting on what I did. Just a little information, this is on an iMac, an iMac 27-inch, the 2015 version, but we're on Lightroom, Adobe Lightroom 2019. That's the most current update at the moment. I'm doing this on a keyboard, normal keyboard, but actually with a pen and as in stylus, or a pad and stylus. I'm using a Wacom tablet and stylus. It's actually because I do a lot of film work and a lot of editing work on there. I'm trying it out for that, but in order to get used to it, instead of a mouse, I'm using it for everything. So I decided I was going to use the pen to edit this. That's just so you know what I'm working with there. I've all the pictures in the past, before pretty much a month ago, I've edited with a mouse. They're just different. Editing with a pen and tablet is different. It's kind of interesting, and I'd recommend it, I think. But it just depends, it depends what type of thing you want to get into, and I like using it, but that's not really what this video is about. So let's start the recording. Let's start the playback. So the first thing that I'm looking at is, I'm thinking, well, I like the crop of this already. This was sort of an accident shot, really, that we got. So what I'm doing is, at the moment, I don't like how cold it is. I want to warm it up. So I'm going in and I'm just upping the temperature a bit. Now what I'm going down to bottom of here is the dehaze tool. Now this dehaze tool for me was a kind of incredible tool. It just makes everything look better, in my opinion. It makes everything look richer, more saturated, and it actually makes things look a bit more true to life, but in an enhanced way. So now what we're doing is we're going in and we are taking out some of her spots. This is using the clone and heal tool, which, as you can see, if you look in the top right hand corner, that's the one that's collected. I'm just going to pause the video here just while we talk about this. Spot healing is something that any portrait photographer should be doing, because it's very rare that a model, regardless of how much makeup they're wearing or how clear their skin is, they're going to have slight imperfections and slight things that maybe are distracting. So the model, if we just scroll back in the video a little bit, so you can see here that that spot on her chest is probably quite distracting. You want anything to take away from that. So we're just trying to take that out. We're not. I don't believe in sort of making people thinner or taller or more muscular. That's not something I do in my pictures, but I do think you can enhance people and just make sure that that people's spots and things like that, things which the model will probably want you to take out, if they haven't explicitly said it, most models will want you to take out their imperfections. So that's what we're doing here. As you can see, it works very similar to the clone stamp tool in Photoshop, I think that's what it's called, or the spot healing tool. You just paint over an area and it will select another area to paint over. Really intuitive, really easy to do. Is you just taking that one out on that chin, and just doing a couple of things. We're just sort of cleaning things up a little bit. So that's just what we're doing there. You see, we're just going through and we're just trying to find those odd things that maybe that will just make it'll make the model look a lot better. So as you can see, Lightroom is very good actually at detecting auto-detecting. I haven't got it set on anything. I'm not selecting where I choose from. I'm letting Lightroom do that for me. Because her skin is fairly even, which is quite nice. It sort of helps. Down at the bottom, I'm just changing my overlays. Okay, so that's sort of, I'm quite happy with that generally. I think that works all right. Now, for the bit that makes everyone kind of quite interested in these pictures, it's the eyes. there's that phrase that eyes are the windows to the soul, and with photography it's no different. Now, I quite like giving Emily blue eyes because I think it complements the ginger hair, and she does have like bluey, I think bluey grey eyes certainly from these pictures. So what we're going to do is we're just enhancing that. We're just changing her eye colour a little bit. So what we're using here, hang on, I'll just pause there for you so you can catch up. What we're using here is the mask tool. On the top right, you'll see underneath the histogram, you'll see it's the second one from the right. And what this is it's taking an area for you to select, and it will have individual properties. So you can change, as you can see, just for this example, we have changed the exposure right down of this one particular section. The reason why we've brought the exposure right down, just for this example, is simply so we can see the area that we've selected. And that's also why I've taken the feather right down. So what we've done, what we're going to do here, just to make our eyes really pop, we're going to up the saturation. And what we found out from editing the last picture was that it's saturation and temperature which really help bring out our eyes. And this is sort of this is a real fine-tuning process. With the last pictures, for example, both of her eyes needed two separate masks with two separate settings because the light interacts differently, and you want to make her eyes look the same. Now, luckily, only one eye is showing on this, but sometimes you will need to do that. You'll need to adjust for different eyes, basically. So yeah, we're just sort of fine-tuning. I'm just sort of the reason why I'm upping the exposure, the saturation and stuff, because I want it to pop more, and I realise it's because the temperature isn't at the correct level. So I'm just making her eyes deeper, making it more blue, and I really quite like that look. Now, when you zoom out to a larger picture, I'm just going to pause right there. Something that you'll find is that something can look very good when you're zoomed in, and you're super zoomed in, you sort of, oh, I think that looks great, but then when you zoom out, it sometimes doesn't look right. And for example here, what we've noticed is that her hair and the right side of her face is too bright, or it's the same brightness as her eye, and that's quite distracting. So what we're going to work at now is to lower that exposure slightly of that side of her face, just so you're drawn to the eye more. You're not drawn to the top of her head, you're drawn to the eye. Doing exactly the same process, just making more masks. Now, what a mask will often do is it will, rather than selecting the area within the circle, sometimes by default it will select the area outside of the circle. So by default it will be outside the circle. So in order to get rid of that, you just need to click Invert Mask, and that will change it to inside the circle. I don't know why it does that. It's just sort of a little quirk with Lightroom. There probably is a reason, but it's not a big issue. So as you can see, we're just going to turn down the whites of that, just a little bit, just to make the top of her head not quite as bright. We're not gonna make it exactly the same shade as her other hair, but just a little bit. We're doing exactly the same with the side of her face, just finessing, just fine tuning, just trying to make sure it looks right. It doesn't look out of place, because you never want a picture to look edited. You don't want a picture to look like it's been put together necessarily. You want it to look like it's natural. And this sort of process is something that photographers do a lot. It's not uncommon for photographers, ranging from sort of enthusiastic hobbyists all the way up to high-end professionals, to edit different sections of the image. It's not uncommon, and I mean it's very common, in fact. And that the mask is one way of doing that. And that I like using them in Lightroom, but you can use them in Photoshop as well, and they work the same way. So that's what we're doing. Now, as you can see with this one, quite like the top of her head, quite like everything else, but the in between her eyebrows is still a bit bright. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to take it down, just a little bit, especially because it's so close to the eye. You don't. That's the thing that's too distracting. So we've just warmed it up a little bit, just warmed up the nose, and we've just lowered the whites a little bit. And this is something that comes with just finessing, just slowly finessing. Now, so yeah, I find it really helpful sometimes to click on and off, so you can see exactly what you've done, the difference you've made. And as you've seen from doing that, we've realised that we've altered the top of the head a bit too much. It's a bit too wide of a mask, so we've just brought that down a little bit. Okay. And what we're going to do here, I think, sort of remember what I did, is, yeah, so we're going to go around and we're just looking for more spots, basically, more little bumps and little things. Sometimes it's dust on the lens that you can get rid of. We're just doing that with our clone and heal tool again. So I'm really small, and the reason why you go into this detail is because basically sometimes you're not sure where or how big this image is going to be presented. Might just be on someone's phone or a tablet, could be on a big computer screen, or it could be on a TV screen, or it could be printed huge. And you want to make sure that the image still stands up. Carry on. Sorry, the screen recording is being a little bit temperamental. Okay, so we just we haven't cropped it because we quite like the way the image looks. What we're going to do now is we're just going to go and do a little bit of colour correction. Now, I work as an editor, and part of my job as an editor is often to do colour grading. And what I found is that regardless of highlights, shadows, whites and whites, if you have an area of pure black in the image, that will make the image look contrasty and sort of saturated and not washed out, which is never what we want. What I like about Lightroom is that we're able to adjust the individual tones of various colours. So what I'm doing here, just to warm up the image, is I'm just bringing my green a bit more closer towards the yellow. Super simple, and it just makes the image feel a bit nicer. Now, to me, that's the image done then, and that's how that was it really. Really, actually, a very simple image to do. It helps that Emily was an amazing model. Brian was really helpful at still shot photography in getting this picture. So editing it was relatively straightforward. I didn't have to, as I said, I didn't have to take any things out. Didn't have to make a slimmer or anything like that. Just enhancing. And that's sort of what I do in photography. So I hope you enjoyed this little look into how I edit pictures. If you want to see more of these, then just like and comment on this video. Send me a private message. Let me know, basically, and I'll do more of these, and I'll do live versions of this, so I'm commenting as I edit, which will be fun. But yeah, I enjoyed doing this. Let me know if you like it, and make sure to like the page. Yeah, thanks a lot, and I'll see you soon.